I'm good to go.
Hello, this is Patty here again with the second installment of our Madlab podcast for gym owners. With me, I've got Steve and Cristini in the Greater Toronto area. How's it going, boys?
Not too bad.
Good, thanks.
I think Ontario is probably the most locked down place in North America, if not the Western world. Is that right?
It's not fun here.
It's a tie between us and Quebec, so it's been interesting.
It has been interesting. Quebec even had curfews and all this stuff. So anyway, it looks like we're pulling out of this thing now. We're in February and the weather should get better and the vaccination stuff seems to be working. So here's to a better future for all of us, right?
Fingers crossed.
I don't want to be optimistic anymore. We've been optimistic before, but you never know.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that guy that was in the prison, the Hanoi Hilton, for 10 years. He was like, how did you manage the last 10 years and everybody else was dying off at a rate of less than a year? And he was like, oh, all the optimists died first. They'd be like, hey, we'll be out at Christmas time, and Christmas comes, it doesn't happen. We'll be out by Easter, it doesn't happen, and they just give up and die. Where he was like, fuck, I'll probably live here the rest of my life. Started building cockroach farms and, communication systems. So, yeah, I like that attitude. I've lived in some bad places for a long time. So sometimes you just got to live where you're at, man. Enjoy life, no matter where it is, right?
I completely agree.
So how long have you been with Madlab now? And is it 2 years?
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime, to be honest with you.
We officially kicked off, it was January, like 2 months before the lockdown. So it was right before. It was January 2020. Yeah. Well, actually, we started the process in September of 2019 is actually when we started the process. And then we really made the changes to our business as of January. That's where we kind of set our date.
And how did you hear about us? Like, how did it come about?
One of our coaches, Brandon, he was good friends with Tom. Actually, they used to work at the same gym together back in another town. And actually, we were having like a coach's barbecue one day. And Brandon brought up the idea. He's like, one of my old buddies, he's crushing it out west. Things are different. They got this system. That's how it really kind of it really got the ball rolling for us. But we've heard of Madlabs for a long time. I mean, we've been in the game just as long as you guys. And it was I remember hearing the name years ago. You guys had videos out there and things like that. But it was really Brandon and Tom's connection that really kind of got it to make us, take a step forward.
Well, that was the kind of second question on my list. I like to ask people. So maybe I'll just ask Chris. I go, Chris, what was the hesitancy and why didn't you jump into it earlier?
Well, I guess Steve knew you guys a little bit more than I did. I wasn't sure about, I've heard of Madlabs, but I didn't know the specifics, to be honest with you. But I also think that, depending on gyms jumping on board and, having insight or talking to and networking with the right people, I think there's almost like a natural progression, especially, with what's we'll say with like the faults in the fitness industry, right? I think you kind of got to go through that, life cycle and realize you get to a point and something needs to change, right? So obviously when you see something needs to change, we're trying to see, we hear this, we try to develop our own system, and then we realize, holy shit, you guys actually have the whole system that we've been trying to do up on our own, plus you have experience, plus it completely works. So you guys once we saw what you guys had to offer, it was like it became a no-brainer, because I'm like, oh my god, these guys have already thought it well out on what needs to be done, and that kind of that missing link in the whole fitness industry. So you guys were fixing a problem that I think most people realize, and if they've lasted long enough, they realize that something like this system needs to be implemented if you want longevity, in my opinion, of course.
Appreciate that. I think there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of guys failed for it to kind of flush itself out, so that the new guys come on, they don't have to go through every little single heartache, and it never ends. I mean, I still have these little heartaches that come up. It's just life. If you think it's all solved, that it's kind of done. So Steve, take me through. Chris just mentioned a couple of things there, like there's sort of a natural life cycle where people start out. Like, what did your client development process and your coach pay kind of look like back in the day, and then what were the problems you saw? Kind of describe what Chris was talking about there, of what gym owners get into, and then kind of where it stalls out.
So, I mean, it's probably the same as every other, fitness facility you run out of time, right? Coaches run out of time. There's only so many hours in a day. and there's only so many key hours that you can have like the best clients. So, the problem was that we had coaches who worked for us for years. They can only make so much money because it was dollar per hour value. We had tried, we had brought one coach over at one point where we did like a mixed model of, she was doing some admin work for a salary pay. And then she would do, on top of that, she would do personal training and she would do her classes. But again, you can only teach so many hours in a day without being fried. And even with that, you can only work so many days a week. You're having coaches work 7 days a week of coaching and they're fried out. So it was kind of, we would see the ups and downs of coaches. We would see them get capped. And then we would see them lose motivation. Even with things like, raising rates and changing prices and stuff like that, it's good. It solves temporary solutions, but it's hard to build momentum. It's like a flywheel kind of effect, right? It's hard to build that flywheel of like, I put in the time now so that this way it pays off later. It was like, I put in the time now and it pays off right now, and that's it. So once we saw this as an option of, performance-based pay, you guys aren't the first one to ever invent that, but what it was that you guys had a system where it was already all laid out. And I think with what we did with our gyms in the early days really was, our big focus was always the direct coaching itself. It wasn't the business. We put a lot of time and energy to having the best coaches, having the most knowledge. A lot of our coaches were like competitive CrossFit, not that makes you a valid coach, but they definitely knew the ins and outs and that they inspired the right people. But we didn't put in enough time in the early days into the actual, how do we scale this business so that this way the coaches can also be successful and stay with us long-term, because we had a lot of successful coaches, but how many of them were actually long-term? So, it really was a means to an end, but it was the right timing, because we felt like we had this foundation of like rock star coaches, of the people who knew the right things. And now we wanted to make sure they can get paid essentially appropriately. And shit, inflation has been like crazy. Like where we live in Markham, a townhouse is going for like 1.4 million now. Like, it's crazy. So it's like, how can our coaches that live in this city, how can they afford a life doing dollar per hour value teaching fitness classes and doing personal training? It's like, it's impossible. They need some other solution. And this was essentially the solution that we knew. Like, we have, some of our coaches, they've got multiple kids and they've got their mortgages to pay. And it's like, they can't pay that shit. They're not going to be with us for very long. So we need to solve this problem. I think the big thing was it was our 10-year anniversary. I think we all kind of like, we're like, if there's going to be a 20-year anniversary, the next couple years needs to be very different. Like, we need to make drastic changes so that we have a 20-year anniversary, because, 10 years in, it's like, do we want to be in the same spot at 20 years? Because if so, like, I don't think we're even going to go for it. Like, we're not going to make it to 20 years. We're probably going to call it at 15. So what can we do to completely flip this on its head? We needed to do something drastic. We needed to do something different. And we needed to think differently and think bigger. And ultimately, this kind of like, it really provided us with the opportunity to change things.
So the things that you changed, I'll come back to Chris again. What were the biggest things from the client side, that what a client would see when they came in day one versus how it works now? What are the big changes there? We talked about the coaches and, having that performance-based pay and having like a ceiling that's probably double or triple what the old system had. So we'll maybe circle back that to again, but what does it look like different for the clients? Like, if a client comes into your facility, what are the big differences and what are they telling you now or they didn't tell you before maybe?
Well, I think, again, we started off early and there was, CrossFit back in the day, there was really no structure. There was no standard. And if they didn't like it, they couldn't go anywhere else and do it. So they were stuck with whatever it is we had to offer. Right. But again, after year 10, we didn't want to be servicing, someone who just wants a gym membership. Right. We want to service to the highest level. And we understand that if we want our coaches to be here with their knowledge and know that, as fitness industry leaders, that they have just as much knowledge as any top leader in the game. But we also know that now at year 10, that's not good enough. We need to have business principles and we need to offer a service that's exactly at the same level. Because in our opinion, it's great that you know everything, but if you're not servicing your people, and you have a, you know, a dirty, grungy gym, people don't care about that. And people are not going to come first because they hear how good your coaches are. They hear about your professional service. So we know that, you know, coming in back in the day, people wanted CrossFit. They couldn't get anywhere else. So we're going to win. Our programming is, in our opinion, really, really good for the general population. And they're going to get a lot fitter than doing any other program out there. And they got fitter. But over the years, people come, you know, they're on a high, they're like us, they're passionate, they're seeing results, and then they kind of plateau. And then what happens is they need one point of friction to kind of fall off. And the friction is, you know, they just got busy. You know, as life goes on, they might have not been married at the time they got married, and they had kids, and it was just like, you know, I'm put myself behind and I can't make things happen. I'm going to fall back and wait 10 years until I realize how out of shape I got, you know, or I get divorced, or, you know, you might have some kind of health issue that the doctor's like, yo, what's going on with your blood pressure? Because you've been on a great trajectory and all of a sudden something happened, then they come back. And also being around for 10 years, we get retrospect now. So we call people that left us, and we found out, you know, what happened. And they told us there was nothing wrong with us, that they just either fell out of love with CrossFit, or they just stopped because life got busy. So we knew that the biggest missing link, in which is essential to our service now, is that having that professional coach in their corner is a game changer, right? Because expecting someone to come to the gym for a free trial, meaning go for a workout, you have no idea what CrossFit is, you have no idea who anyone in the gym is, and you're going to get your ass handed to you, even if you've been working out, you know, at a regular gym, because it's just a different method of training. You're going to feel so insecure in so many ways. And hopefully you come up to my desk and sign up for a year right after that, right? And no one's going to stay on top of you, right? So that's what we were hoping, and that's how we, you know, that's pretty much how we lasted 10 years, believe it or not, right? And that's not the game anymore, right? And that's not what we want. We want to overserve, and our goal is to make sure that we're servicing the shit out of you. And at the very least, if they realize that we booked them in for a free assessment, we got to know them, know their goals, know their personalities, what they do for a living, their injuries, their lifestyle, blah, 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 because that's just as important as putting together a good program. It's understanding how we need to, you know, implement that dose response of fitness to them to make it work with their lifestyle and personality and their level. Once we give them that, we tell them, like, listen, once you sign up, you have, you know, unlimited access to just your coach is one text message away for helping answer any of your questions. Because, you know, going into something you don't know, you need someone to hold your hand, right? And we knew that having a fitness consultant or a professional is what everybody needs. And it's the same reason why we go to school. Why do we go to school? We need a teacher to mentor us and teach us how we get to the next level. Why do we have parents, right? And especially living in the GTA, where you got to make like $250,000 to afford a shoebox, right? You don't have time. You don't have time to think about, you know, where am I in my fitness phase? Where should I be? You know, based on my goals, what kind of cycles should I be implementing, and how am I doing? Like what I'm doing today, how is it benefiting me from the program I did 3 weeks ago? Right? No one has time for that, and people, especially here, realize that more importantly, time is everything, right? And if you can come in here and you don't have to think about it, and you're getting serviced, and people have nothing but you know, positivity and good things for you to happen to get to the next level, that's what you need. If you can get that here and you can't get that anywhere else, it becomes a no-brainer. For people to sign up now, it becomes a no-brainer, and we want them to see how we service them, because once they go somewhere else, they're like, wow, this place is cheaper, but they offer way less, or this place is the same amount of money, but they're not servicing me the same way, right? So our goal is to make sure that we overserve it. We overservice people. So this way, at the very least, people are like these guys do more than everybody else. So it's been a huge game changer, and our retention's been the best it's ever been because of that. And I think, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why we survived COVID, because again, I'm sure you know tons of gyms that closed down, unfortunately, right? And I know that connection was a game changer for us to survive this, to be honest with you.
That coach-client connection.
It's everything. It really is everything.
So you alluded to a couple of things. You touched on it in different ways. I just kind of want to highlight it and throw it right at you, Steve. The difference between when we opened up in 2004 and what we did until probably 2008 or 9, and we were doing one-on-one PTs, and we had to the coach development program together, but we were still selling a workout of the day. And the difference between selling this workout that people come into versus a professional coaching service. Talk a bit about what that looks like or what that means to you.
Well, back then it was, you're going to love this workout. It's awesome. It's going to kick your ass and you're going to have so much fun. You're probably going to puke afterward. It's going to be great. Right. And it's, I mean, obviously, you know, fitness itself, like CrossFit has evolved at an enormous rate in the time that we've been doing this for. So we started back in 2008, but fitness in general. And I honestly think that CrossFit actually has been the catalyst that made all of fitness kind of move forward. People no longer just care about like, did I have the grossest workout and did I die? People actually are more educated on fitness than ever. I think part of that might be, you know, social media and YouTube and things like that, where people are actually realizing how much this stuff is important. And they're realizing the importance of the longevity of what am I actually doing for my body for long term, right? You know, my father-in-law being an example, he started doing CrossFit kind of in the early days, but he had never worked out before a day in his life. And he was hooked and he liked the old school, but as he got older, he realized all the benefits that it had in the long term. I mean, he's got Parkinson's now. And one of the biggest things would have been like, if he never started training when he did, how his Parkinson's would have been more advanced at this point already. You know, things like anxiety, his sleep, all these different things have improved because of the longevity of fitness, right? Not because of that one day workout that we're trying to just, here it is, you're going to love this one workout, right? You know, even now, I mean, even from a consumer perspective, I don't think most people are even looking for that. There's the odd person who's probably been a CrossFitter for a long time, who they'll actually shop around based on programming and things like that. But that's so far and few between at this point that the consumer wants something better. They know, I think actually even with COVID, it's actually made that even go faster too, because they no longer just want to go to Good Life. They don't want just basic. They don't want just access to a gym. They know that they need to invest more than ever in somebody who's actually there to guide them, on somebody who's actually professional at this, who can take them through it and can keep them on the right path for a long period of time. Because, you know, it's more than just fitness. It's mental, it's physical, it's like emotional for some people. There's people who realize how bummed out they were when they couldn't see other human beings who also have a positive vibe that are in the same place long term, right? So I think the consumers have changed and they're expecting something at a higher level. And I think that's the fact that we aligned ourselves with that, you know, right before the pandemic started. Like Chris said, like it's part of the reason that we were able to get out of this, because, you know, we had people join a week before the lockdown. They could have been the first people to cancel their memberships when all this happened. And some of them, they stuck with us. They never put their memberships on hold, even all throughout the lockdowns. And I've got one guy, for example, he literally joined like a week before the lockdown. He's like one of our all-time best members ever at this point. And he even says, he's like, the communication, the relationship that I had with my coach, even during lockdowns. And he wasn't with us long enough to really have that like sense of loyalty. But because of the relationship he was able to have with his coach during a lockdown, it changed his life.
Yeah. I mean, when you kind of look at how all this stuff pieces together, I think one of the biggest complaints against us has been like people have a hard time understanding it. So maybe just talk about like, you know, because it is truly just how life works, and it's extremely simple, but explaining that to people has been the fucking bane of my existence. You know what I mean? Like, especially the gym owners, you know, when someone comes into their gym, they feel it. When the coaches understand, oh shit, I can make $100,000 a year and this is what I got to do, they get it. But when I talk to gym owners, it just works on itself in so different ways. It perplexes me. If you were talking directly to a gym owner, like, what would you say to them about this thing? You know?
Honestly, I agree, because that's part of the reason I think the hesitation when we were first looking at it, and you know, even we took our time to really jump the gun, because it was like, really, can we actually charge this much? We had to understand our own value, right? And there isn't a traditional sense of, which is funny because CrossFit technically started with personal training, but how many CrossFit gyms at this point still don't do personal training? So honestly, at this point, it's like if you're a new owner, it's simply bridging the gap of relationship and group fitness. And I wouldn't even just say personal training because it's more than just that 1 hour. If you can have better relationships with your group fitness members, you will have a better gym overall.
Can you do that by paying the coaches by the hour for the group class?
No, because they're never going to have any skin in the game, right? Like, why would they care? They'll care for the time that you're paying them for, but they don't need to care because it's not their problem.
The other thing we really notice is, there's still all kinds of people out there flogging, hey, you just charge a whole bunch of personal training and then you still, pay your coaches by the hour. Like, where's the fall down in that thing, Chris? Like, where does that thing really fall down?
Well, it's short-sighted. And again, that's why we had to come to terms with, we had some incredible coaches. We still have amazing coaches that work for us that are honestly top in the country, like as far as knowledge and whatnot. But we had to come to terms with, based on their age, based on how much effort they put in, how much they love and are passionate about this, that there's a trajectory where it's like, okay, I've done so much, and then you realize that I can't afford to live as an adult. I can't afford to earn a professional wage. I see my end. I'm going to work 40 hours a week and I'm going to make this much, and how much more. And hopefully my bosses increase the rates yearly so this way I can make a little bit more, but this is all I can make and it's not enough, right? So we have to come to terms with, like what most, gyms do. It's like, well, because personal training isn't a career, right? It's an in-between job. So you're going to get them till they're done and there's no more passion, or they have to realize that I need to do something as an adult and, earn a professional wage. I'm going to get my real job, right? Maybe I'll do this as a side gig just because it's funny money kind of thing. I do whatever I want with it, but I got to get a career now. I need to afford stuff. I want to have a family. I want to get married. So we have to come to terms every 10 years, we're going to have to circulate and lose all those deep relationships that we build with our coaches and that they build in our community, that we're going to lose them. And we're going to have to start off with getting, another, 20-year-old to come work for us who's full of piss and vinegar and doesn't care about the money right now because it's all passion to understand that we have them for maybe, if we're lucky, 10 years. And then we're going to do it again. And is that what we want, right? So a lot of business models, that's what they do, right? Because people are okay with making, $18 an hour or whatever it is. But we decided, we're in it. Like we want, we're a family-run business, right? We don't want to look at our employees as, employees. We want to look at them as family, because we know that if we, treat that and keep that as one of our, core values, that if we're one big family here with our employees, we're going to treat our members the exact same way. And that loyalty is going to, create longevity, and it becomes an honest system. The more I care for you, the more you're going to care about me. And it becomes, it's cyclical, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to be able to make more, but I'm also giving you more. It's not like I'm going to make more and increase my prices and not give you value. Right. And I think having that kind of outlook, makes it easier for our employees to see how we run our business, and they want to be around somewhere in a community like that, because you don't want to just be a number, being corporate and be like, whether I come or go, if someone can do my job and they're cheaper, they're going to cut me out because they don't care, even though I've been with them 30 years, right? Like we know that, and that's not what we want. And we also know that when it comes time for our employees to get a new member in, and we don't believe that it's selling. It's like we're helping them because we believe in our service. We believe in what we do, and we believe that, our standard of fitness is up here, right? And it's not CrossFit or competition. It's like the tools that we have to help people are huge, especially because we have such a big, strong team. And we know that anyone who comes to the door, we're going to change their life. And because we have that attitude, it makes it so much easier, because if someone's coming with a problem and we have the solution, it's like, how can you not be a part of my gym? I just told you exactly how I'm going to help you. Unless they can't afford it for whatever reason, that's a completely other story. But it makes it a lot easier for everybody to be on the same page, and and it does help with sales. But it's because we're trying to do the right thing. We're not just selling the biggest package and we're going to make the most money, because short term I might make money, but if we don't do it in the right way, yeah, we might have them for that package and then they're done a couple months later, where we want to look at them. We need you for 10 years. And we tell everybody we need to get you better for the next 10 years on a linear projection, and it's honest, right? And when you talk to them like that, they're like, oh my God, you're not you're not trying to get me to buy 100 personal training sessions day one, even
Right.
though I haven't even seen it, right? And it goes a long way, I think.
Having the coaches paid for, you know, the whole membership, you know, and if they're making summers between, you know, they're younger, 20, 30, and when they get, you know, more advanced, somewhere between 40, 50. The fundamental difference between that, Steve, and paying them by the hour. Now, if you do the math, and if you're paid someone, say your membership is $200 a month and you paid the coach $25 an hour, if you actually do the math, it's only 10% of the coach, right? And there's still a lot of systems out there where they're saying, hey, you can pay them by the hour and then just charge a whole lot for personal training and it'll work. Do you think it can work that way?
I guess, I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
if you think of it like I've heard of like some gyms in New York City where they're charging, you know, $250 an hour for a personal training session and their coaches are making a premium. I think it's still relative to where they're at though, too, right? Like if you live in New York City, what do you actually need to make and how many hours in the day are there available? And how many hours are those key hours where you've got somebody who can actually afford $250, right? Like if you think of like your high performing clients, a lot of those are like 6 a.m.ers, 7 a.m.ers, they're go-to kind of people. There's not that many hours of those days to go around. Can it work? I'm not gonna say it can't work. I'm sure it can work in some places, but for how many people can it work and how many people have the right mindset to actually make that work? Probably not that many. I think when you have the guidance and a system where you can actually do something, if you're not thinking short term, if you're thinking long term, you know, again, even something as simple, say, do you want to take a vacation? Say you want to go away with your family for a month.
That's big.
Can you make that happen? If you're like, well, I make $150 an hour on personal training. What happens when you're on vacation? You make $0 an hour, right? Like good for you. But if I can build myself into a system where I'm going to take off a month, or God forbid something happens and you're like, you know, my mom is sick and I need to take off some time and I need to make my life work. You know, those are the things you can't plan for, but you can actually have a system that allows you to have that backup plan. You know, I don't want that to happen, but this system actually allows you to have that kind of stability that is unlike pretty much anything else in the fitness industry. We expect these kind of things in other industries. You know, if you're a cop and my brother-in-law is a paramedic, he's got COVID right now. He's got like 10 days off of work. Like it's no questions asked. It wouldn't be a big deal and he's paid. But if that would happen in a CrossFit gym right now, say you're making $150 an hour doing personal training, what happens when you get COVID? You're going to stay your ass home and that's it. You're not going to make anything. Right. So I think it is short-sighted. You might even be the hottest trainer in all of the world right now, but that's still just right now, because as soon as tomorrow happens and a client cancels on you and you don't fill your schedule, you're not making money.
Right. So the difference in the behaviors between, hey, you get a percentage of the whole membership, including the group part, versus paying someone $18 or $20 or $25 an hour to run that group class. Just talk a little bit about the completely different mindset that is.
There's a sense of ownership, right? It's something as simple as, you know, if you know, I think of like even the little things. If there's a piece of paper on the floor by the garbage, that's my gym because I'm making a percentage of this. Like I'm going to pick that up and throw it out. I'm going to go that extra mile. I'm not at work today, but I've got a client who I need to talk to because they're going off the rails and maybe they need to have a 45-minute conversation. Somebody who just paid for the hour, they don't have to care. And there are good people out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some people who are going to be like, I do care. I'll go that extra mile. But when you got skin in the game, there's nothing like it. That is ownership, right? So when you got a percentage, you're going to go that extra mile on all the little things. And realistically, everybody can teach a good squat. You know, you can go to another gym down the street, they can teach a good squat. But what is the game changer? It's going to be the little things. It's going to be that little text message. It's going to be that phone call. It's going to be keeping the gym a little bit extra clean. It is going to be showing up when there's barbecue night. And even though you're not getting paid for barbecue night, you're showing up because you know that it's going to benefit your clients. It's going to benefit your members, right? We got one coach, he does an annual axe throwing thing out of his own like enjoyment for him. He invites all his members and his own clients. And does he have to do that? No, but he knows the benefit of doing things like this because he has ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's getting, I mean, what happens outside the gym is just as important what happens inside the gym. When you're getting paid that $1 per hour, you go give an awesome performance of that 1 hour and you're gone.
Yeah.
And then the fucking owner is kind of left to hold the bag. So let's just shift gears a little bit. We talked about the client experience. We talked about and the retention that comes with that, and you know, you can charge more, and they will pay for the value. We talked about the coach. Like Chris, for you as a gym owner, since this changes have been made, how is your life different?
Um, the transition's hard, to be honest with you. There's good and bad. I think it exposes the fitness industry a lot, to be honest with you, though, because again, I think there's a big disconnect in the fitness industry, and I think that's the biggest issue in my opinion. Because again, you can talk to any personal trainer and say, "Who wants to make $100,000 a year?" Everyone's going to be like, I do," and then you're going to ask a couple months later, "Are you making that? Are you on your way?" "Oh no, I got to work like 40 hours a week." Holy shit, right? And I think that because there's such a small niche of people trying to make it a legit real career, the rest of the population who want to be trainers don't understand. They have the passion to be fit, but the work ethic of what it takes to become a professional is a big disconnect. And I think that's been one of the struggles, in my opinion, because trying to get people in, and obviously I'm passionate about fitness and I've been in the game for 17 years. um, when I see it, when we're hiring and I bring someone through an interview and I kind of tell them our concept, because it is different, I think it overwhelms them. They're like, "Whoa, I just want to work a couple hours a day and check out, and I'll be done with it," right? And I think you get to see who really wants to be professional and who doesn't. And I think that it's hard. I think it has to be that way eventually, where the majority of the industry sees that it's a profession. But I think that's been my biggest struggle, to be honest with you, finding people who actually want to be professionals, not just I want to punch in, punch out. I actually don't care to make a lot of money, and I don't want as much responsibility I want the responsibility, but I don't have to put in the work, right?
Right.
And I think it's not a Madlab system or my system, my Cristini athletic problem. I think it's an issue with the industry as a whole, because you take kinesiology, and then you're like, what am I going to be? Am I going to be a personal trainer? I spent 4 years to do something I could take a weekend course and charge the same amount of money, or you become you go to physio school, or chiro college, or become a teacher, right? It's a big disconnect, because it's still not, you're not going to go to university to become just a personal trainer, right? Because there's no real career right now, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's that's the biggest struggle. But I do know that the ones that we have, free up your time, allow you to offer better services, create better retention, obviously create better revenue. Only because the biggest issue between Steve and I is, you get to a certain amount of people, and plus or minus 50 people at each gym, it always came down to, how many relationships can I personally hold? How
Yep.
many personal relationships can Steve hold? And we know there's that magic number. And we're like, that's why we can't grow anymore, because we can only handle so much, right? And then it's understanding that we want to affect as many people as we can. And if we get people, our coaches become extensions of us, we can grow by, double every person that we have as a coach, right? It's just finding the right people and the right mindset, and people that are willing to put in the work.
I can tell you, as this conversation goes, you guys get it. And sometimes I talk to gym owners that they're pretending like they've done the work in our system, and they have the complaints they have are all kinds of fucking nonsense because they just haven't done the work or don't understand it well enough. The number one complaint that we're ever going to run into is going to be finding someone that is competent, capable, and gives a shit to do the job, right? I mean, it is a shame. Like we had still one of our good friends, but he was in our gym for 10 years. He's moved further away. He's a professor at Simon Fraser University. He helped us build all the coach stuff in our JA program on the technical side. And I wanted to go speak to his graduating class, of kinesiologists or whatever. And they were like, none of them are interested. No, they don't. None of them want to work in a gym. I was like, don't you think I could show the opportunity? And he goes, I could have pushed it a little further. I'd probably got up there and said, hey, there is an opportunity here. He said, most of them go in there because they can't get into the other stuff and they just want to get into med school, right? Or physio after or whatever. It's like a way station to go somewhere else. That speaks to the immaturity of our industry. I mean, maybe Steve, you can speak a little bit about how you got involved in it. And I know your mom was a pioneer in this stuff, and really how immature our industry is. Like, you look at engineering shit, it's been around probably a couple of thousand years, at least since 1600s. They had actually documented the degrees. But, maybe we've been 30, 40, someone could argue 50 years. I don't know, Jack LaLanne, maybe you start. I don't know where you start, but talk about how you got into this thing and just how immature this industry really is.
Honestly, I still think like really we're in the infancy stage, because I think this system is actually going to benefit like the teenagers who are growing up in the gym right now and seeing this, because we essentially need to turn this into like, this is more of like a consulting role. Like we're consultants for fitness.
Right.
And consulting's been around, right? And if it becomes the understanding, it's like, I am a manager I am a manager and I consult my group of people. But what do you consult? I consult them in fitness. But that role hasn't really been established yet. And it's like, I think really we are the ones making that the role. I think of one of our best coaches here, and she was a manager of a kids, it was like a kids play place, but it was a gym style. It was like a kids gym. And her direct role wasn't fitness. Her direct role was a manager. So when she came over to here and she had the opportunity to do this with this system, it was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've already been a manager. I've already been on top of staying organized with people, and the fitness itself was almost like secondary, because it gets to the point where like, when you're a good enough coach, like again, anyone can teach the squat, but can you manage and organize and consult your group of people long enough to do a proper job? Where we've gone in the last 13 years. So, I started right from CrossFit. I didn't have previous fitness experience. My previous fitness experience was I cleaned a gym when I was a kid. I was cleaning the boogers off the wall because that's all I could get paid for. I did grow up in the gym, but I didn't work in the gym. But seeing my mom work in the gym for a long time, it obviously was part of our family culture, definitely. But a lot of the lessons that we learned really was trial and error in the early days, because it was, the early days of doing CrossFit, there was no direction. There was no more than a 2-day seminar where everybody passed because there was no test, and there was zero business component, right? So how did you learn? You learned by fucking up. You charged not enough. You made mistakes. You screwed things up. You terrible programming, terrible advertising. Our earliest days of advertising was putting stickers on windows at the Go station on a hot day, and they happened to melt to everybody's windshield. The one time we tried it, and we cheaped out on the paper, and the paper melted the people's windshield. And our first location was only like a block away, so everybody just showed up pissed off. And one guy legitimately wanted money in return, and we're like, "How much do you want?" He's like, "I want $13." Like, okay, man, but there was one or two people who were pissed off who actually they joined. They're like, "Wait, what is this place?" Right? So different. That right? And that was the early days of us, and that was only 13 years ago. And I know, fitness has been popularized because of the bodybuilding era in the 70s, but really, even then, if you think about the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s, still at that point, who was really being professional for fitness? It was a bunch of bodybuilders who were training themselves and then training some people on top of it in a style that made no difference for that general population. And they were probably selling the dudes some juice on the side to make real money, right? Like, let's be real with it, right? It wasn't about health. There was a transition into health in like the 90s and the early 2000s. We started thinking about body break and stuff like that. And that's where people were treating fitness as like, okay, it's not just for bodybuilders anymore. Now it's actually about longevity. It's actually about health. So really, like, we're not even 30 years into this, right? It's so immature. Like you said, if you think of other professions and how long they've been around, we're absolute babies. I mean, even the idea, like sometimes getting people to understand, like, go take the course, go take the Madlab's course. Like, well, why would I take a course when I can just start teaching right now? It's like, because you don't get it. It's not just about the squat, right? If you're an engineer, you're not like, well, if I connect red to red and if I connect black to black, shit's great, no problem. No, or sorry, engineer, I'm an electrician. But why do electricians go and take a 3-year internship? Like, why do they have to go work for a few years before they're allowed to actually start connecting wires? Well, because you're going to kill yourself and you're going to kill everybody around you, right?
Yeah.
And there's more than meets the eye, and it's getting people to understand that, like, hey, if you actually want a long-term approach to this, if you want to do this for a long period of time, there's more than just being the best at teaching how to snatch, right? It makes no difference. But can you speak to people? Can you have a relationship with people? Can you stay organized? Because that, honestly, people aren't that organized. And then from there is again, it's that flywheel where it's like, can you build up momentum over time and build your client roster and maintain people and keep that going? Because that way your short-term effort actually pays off in the long run, because you hold people for 10 years and you have good retention.
Yeah, and I would say that the system that most people are in today, there is just no chance to do that because it's designed for day one. I'm just going to go on a small chat here. I know we haven't talked about this before. I haven't really put a lot of the stuff out. When I first started in 2004, I mean, Greg and I became really good friends. He was a mentor. He would come up here and sleep in my bed, and I would sleep on the couch. And it was an open source fitness thing, and he was making his money from the journal. It was really clean. He was going to turn into basically it was supposed to be a non-for-profit, right? I don't think many people know this story. And as it went, he just started doing search by accident. Some law enforcement agency said, hey, we need to certify someone. Can you make one? And that was how it started. And then before long, he was 2 years in, he's like, curves. I was like, holy fuck, what does curves have in common with this? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then, lo and behold, I had a lady that owned 3 Curves gyms that came in to train with me. She was in her late 50s, great shape. And she kind of started telling me about how the thing works and where it falls down. But if you look at where they made all their money, like in 2007 or 8, the whole thing took a left turn. I had a 25 mile radius and all this kind of stuff. And, and the journal was the big thing, and we all contributed to it. And that just got left aside. And it was like 2-day certs and business license, right? Or the franchise, or whatever the
affiliates,
the affiliate license, right? And then the excellence around that was excellence in fitness, and I think it really did, and it definitely changed the whole world. But excellence in business got left aside. It was, and that's what we're trying to figure out now. That's what we've been working on ever since. The idea of you take a 2-day course, you buy a license, and you open a business, and you're prepared. Like, it seems absurd now, but I did it. You guys did it, right? I mean, but so why? So, I started, thinking about this a lot. Why was it we put people straight into a class and we were told to do that? Well, you think about it. At one point, you could open up a CrossFit affiliate and 100 people would show up, or 50 in a month. How could you take them all on? And then that's sort of been the fitness industry, and that's what Curves was. Curves was like, how many can they make? They made all their money from franchises. Now you look at F45 and Orange Theory, and the people, like, I see CrossFit gyms trying to compete against those guys, or independent gym. They're kind of set up to fail from day one. I mean, how they get into business? I know people selling these franchises. I've been contacted for us to have our coach system inside of there, and it's like, we need to sell 400 memberships. And then someone will buy the franchise. So the day you open, you need to be able to take 300 or 400 people. It's not about what happened, like success in year 5, success in year 10. Like you guys mentioned before, like we were 10 years in and we couldn't see another. Like, it's not set up for year 20. If you had to go back and talk to someone, here's my question. I'm going to ask it to Steve first. If you had to go back and talk to yourself when you first opened up that first affiliate, and you could have a little talk with Steve and Chris, go back and talk to those kids and say, this is the stuff you should not be doing. This is the stuff you should be doing. It's just, if someone that's even in it 5 or 10 years, or someone that's new, like, what's the big deal?
I think one of the things I would say is that we went too big too fast. I would say stay small, and master what you have, because we had a profitable small building, and we decided to go like 6 times bigger. And we weren't, number one, our systems weren't ready for that. And our coaching wasn't ready for that in terms of, again, staying organized. So I would say, like, stay small until you master that, because you don't need to jump the gun to some really expensive rent like we did. And we didn't not do personal training, but I would say put more focus on the one-on-one attention. Not to say just personal training itself, but if we could have changed our system so that we didn't let people slip through the cracks, that itself would have been the game changer. I remember a long time ago, I heard something saying like, do you really have a people problem? Go back and count all your waivers. And we got drawers full of waivers, thousands of waivers. So do we really have a people problem, or do we have a retention problem, or a problem with signing people up? And that's clearly where our problem is. If we've got thousands of waivers, you don't need thousands of members.
Yeah.
You let people slip through the cracks, and you didn't get people to join because your product was either shitty or your communication with that person was shitty. And 100% those two things, that was our problem. People slipped through the cracks, and we weren't good at signing them up. Like Chris said, we would throw them into a group class and be like, hopefully they stop by the desk on the way out. And it's like, oh shit, they snuck out. They pretended the old phone call thing. I got to go. Right.
Yeah.
So that was it. Right. You probably don't have a people problem. You probably have a retention problem, and you probably suck at, I don't want to say selling, but I'll say communicating.
And the biggest thing we see in the industry over and over and over, like it was Groupon, then it was like one free challenge, and then the 6-week free challenge. And it's like, I just need leads, man. I need new people, right? Chris, maybe talk to, that's not what you need. What you need is, do you need new people?
No, again, like Steve said it, but I think the root cause is just like any other business. And I'm sure you hear it when, you hear like they pop up on Instagram and go book this business summit or get this business coach or life coach. You need systems and business principles. That's it. Because once you have systems, it frees up your time to make sure that, okay, well, this is the selling process. This is, how to maintain clients. This is, over the course of whatever trajectory of life for that term or that client. But that knowing that frees you up to have, okay, well, you have the coach assigned to that person who's coming in for the first time, who's going to talk to them after, answer their questions, help them, blah, blah, blah. Or you're going to have someone at the front desk who doesn't let anyone in unless they have this much information, unless you book them for this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's systems. It's systems
Right.
in an organization, right? Not going off the side of your chair and being, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that today, right? And, because small business owners usually start off with, a lot of passion, right? And they're willing to do this. And I have all this energy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I know Madlab is good for me, and I know it's a good, program, but I'm not ready. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do this. I'm trying to do too busy to do that. And because we're thinking for today and not for tomorrow, right? But again, that's why from the beginning of the conversation today, I was like, you know what? I think it's just natural life progression of going through enough things and learning. I don't want to say the hard way. You're just learning, right? And it's a part of life, and understand that systems are there for a reason. Business principles are the same for the majority of all businesses for a reason, right? CrossFit or fitness, even though it's passion and you're helping people, doesn't mean, oh, I don't need that. I'm above that. Absolutely not. If anything, we, because of, how serious we take on the role of helping someone, we should be even more systematized. We should have more structure, right? But again, you learn the hard way, and either you're forced into doing it, or sometimes people don't realize until it's too late, right? And I think that's the missing link, and that structure, just like someone, a fitness professional would structure someone's progression and how to get fitter, but we don't do the other side for business. Like there's that disconnect, and then again, once you realize, you're like, oh my God, principles are principles. Doesn't matter what you're attributing it to, and that's the biggest aha moment that we had. Like, yeah.
Well, it moves me right into one of the questions I like to ask is, what does your next 5 years, 10 years look like? And I'll let either one of you, whoever wants to jump on that first.
We might have different views, actually.
It'd be interesting to see who says
well, I think what I've already seen in the 2 years of doing the system is that I think, I know that our role will become more and more, even us, it's consulting. We're going to be able to consult our own coaches and our own staff, because the day-to-day stuff will be, not to say easier and easier, but it'll be simpler and simpler, because you're not dealing with the bullshit that we used to have to deal with. We're not thinking about that one person who may have slipped through the cracks, or even something as simple as, like, if there is a new lead, like, we have nothing to do with it at this point. It's going to be at the point where they're all referral based, or, the large majority of things are referral based, and the coaches are doing those roles. So what I've already seen in the last 2 years is my role is more about mentoring the coaches and keeping them organized and keeping them aligned and keeping them, helping them with whatever strategies they need, than it is the actual day-to-day of running a gym. It's no longer about, who was in class today? How big was a class? Or did this person sign up? Like, I was away for the weekend and I had 5 people sign up on one of the days and I had nothing to do with it. Right. Like
It's nice,
that's
right?
the beauty. Right. But I need to make sure that I keep the coaches organized so that this way, when they did on roll 5 new people, it's not going to throw them off or it's not going to mess up their schedules or whatever the case is. So for what I'm seeing is that we're going to be more mentors. And if we want to be able to step away more, we can, because they have ownership and because they are essentially going to be able to be their own managers. You just need touch points, right? So, I definitely, I don't know exactly where we'll be in 5 years. I know we'll definitely be alive in 5 years. And the idea would be to have more coaches that are able to have the life that they want based on how much they want to actually earn and how much they actually want to put in. But I do know that it's basically like our own consulting role is really where we're going.
I like that answer. That's one of the best ones I've heard. Chris, what's your thought on that? Where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years from now?
Not too far off from him. Like, I think, again, providing that we have the structure supported to allow us to step back, but still keep everything, in line and organized, where everyone's, doing what they need to do. And there's still ways to quantify how people are, progressing and, doing a good job and whatnot. But more of that mentor role. I know recently we just had an opportunity. We're going to be starting a podcast ourselves. We're going to be doing it with Wellness Living. They're an online platform for small businesses, right? Similar to, like, we'll say Mind Body, and they're a Canadian group, and their goal is for us to help small businesses, right?
Awesome.
Small gym businesses, and fitness business, I want to say. So it's not just, direct towards CrossFit or Fit 45. It could be yoga classes, it could be strength conditioning, it could be kickboxing, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And the goal is to kind of bridge the gap, because we find there's sometimes a big disconnect. We have the new small businesses, and then we have like the mentors, like, who own like 1,000 studios, crushing, making millions and millions of dollars in their pocket a year. And they're hearing about these systems. Meanwhile, these people don't even answer their phones, right? Or they don't even have an email campaign, right? And it's like, yeah, you're so above here that I'm just not even gonna listen to you, right? We're trying to bridge the gap and kind of be somewhere in the middle, right? To show them, actionable plans that, we can have them implement that day. And obviously by bringing on other people from different backgrounds like yourself, that are going to be able to provide value and feedback to our community. So if us as a whole, right, if our opportunity, and we want the opportunity to be consultants, is because we want to help fitness industry or business owners, because we want them to get to the next level. If they get that to the next level, we know that they can bring their coaches to the next level, which is going to help legitimize being a coach as a career, right? So, the same reason why you're doing it, it's like, well, we know that there's 2 ways. You realize how messed up and disconnected the fitness industry is, and it's either you're going to leave it and go get a real job, or you're going to realize that there's a serious problem, and with that serious problem, if you treat it respectfully and have good solutions, we can actually help this problem. And it has the potential of growth, can be monumental, right? It just depends on which avenue you want to take. Either I'm out getting a real job, or let's get on the infancy stage and really put more blood, sweat, and tears, and bring up not just our coaches but the industry as a whole. And I think having that attitude and outlook, it's the same way as we became personal trainers because we want to help change people's lives, and we love it. But from a different role, it's like, if we help all these small business owners will have a couple hundred people that they're responsible per studio, and it's like, now we can potentially affect more lives by having that attitude. And I think that's what keeps us motivated, and I think that's the trajectory of where we're heading.
Well, boys, you've superseded all expectations, because if you can keep on spreading the message of we need to make this industry better, we need to make it a real profession, and more people that can start hearing that, hey, there's a real opportunity in this industry, and we can start attracting the kids, especially the smart ones that are doing good in school. That would be nice. So I've always a little awkward when I say this, because I don't know if I'm qualified to say I'm proud of you guys, but I am really proud of you guys, and I feel a sense of pride myself, because when I hear the gym owners that get it, you can hear it, and it's in it's just in the pudding. It's just in the mix. It's just in their lives. And, you know, that you can tell your clients can feel it. Your coaches can feel it. You can see it. You can feel it. You can tangible. It's not like one guy sitting by himself, convincing himself that he's doing great. It's just all around you. You know what I mean? It's all around you. So, thank you. Thanks for doing this right. And thanks for trusting us. And I look forward to growing together. And I'd love to be on your podcast and talk about opportunity and things like that. I always like to, you know, one of the things I forgot to say right at the start of this, I've held back some of my truth in this industry. We got attacked so bad. I mean, at one point it was like, hey, you shouldn't throw people right into a group class. You should maybe do a consult first. We got attacked for that. And it was like, you know, maybe you should do some actual personal training and some assessment of people before you give them snatch day. You know, it was like, we got attacked at every turn by trolls and lawyers and everything. And it kind of silenced me for a while. It was just like, fuck, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So part of this podcast is for me to get stuff off of my chest. And it's also for me to learn. So one of the things that I really appreciate over the years is my clients telling me where we fall down, where we can get better. So this is the part where I want you to be completely honest. This will go out. We're not going to hide this stuff. It's like, where can Madlab get better? And where do you see us falling down? And where do we need to go? Steve.
Me? I think the one thing, like I would say, is like nothing is black and white, right? So I think there are systems that are right for certain people, and there are systems that are right for other people. I think one of the biggest things that was for us was right at the beginning was we were not a new gym, and one of the things that we said a lot at the beginning was, I get what they're trying to say, but we're not a new gym and we already know how to handle these types of situations, right? So for example, like certain ways of how to have the intro talk and how to start somebody off with a certain amount of personal training so that this way it doesn't disrupt a class. And I honestly believe that probably, 9.9 out of 10 gyms should have people start off on personal training, because I don't think their coaches actually do know how to handle, a group class with somebody who is new, or their programming is not set up for it, or just, their systems aren't in place to allow that. But where our coaching staff was at that point, it was 11 years in, we were able to handle certain things differently so that we did things with a little bit of a tweak of our own. And we still have people do one-on-ones right at the beginning. It was just that we did certain things slightly differently, just because for us being at that point an 11-year business, we didn't see that these starting points made total sense for us. Even as some of the times when the coaches were going through the JA course, they would come to me and be like, Steve, they're telling me I got to do this. They're telling me I got to do this. Why aren't we doing that? And I was like, because you're not a new coach. And I get that majority of the people in their classes, they'd be like, how many clients do you guys have? And they're like, I got one this week. And our coach would be like, I have 30, because they've been at this for a while and it was slightly different. So I think really it was just that our timeline of like where we were at as a business didn't always align with some of the stuff that was being taught. Not to say that it's not valid, because at the end of the day, the systems, if you didn't have systems to take care of those situations, then yeah, you should go do those things. Because if you have no plan, you're better off having some plan, even if it's not the perfect plan. But for us, because we already had a lot of systems in place when we started this, it didn't always make perfect sense for us. Not so much that it was a negative thing. It was just that we were able to adjust things in a way that we thought, okay, maybe we can do things a little bit faster or a little more effective.
I acknowledge that opinion. There's one thing that my mentor of mine told me that is irrefutable, that'll never change, in my opinion, in the history of mankind, is no one's going to tell you they got genital herpes in a group.
Good.
You're right.
Maybe at genital herpes.
And that's the one thing I think we're going to keep on having this conversation. I'll keep on listening. My bet is if you eventually get to that point where you do that, your retention will get better, your average client value will get better, and that if you guys are this good doing it that way, if you come over towards my way, there's a couple of fundamental things there that never change that are really powerful that can take you to another level again. That's the place I'll stand in on that one. But we've had lots of people mess with all kinds of pieces of it, and it kind of sort of straightens out into where it ends up. And people are on different timelines. And, I know Audrey's let you get away without asking her about every 2 months ago. Those boys changed that thing yet? But anyway, that's all part of the relationship. Anything else structurally we got, or like I've been doing this for a little while, and I've taken some feedback, and we've redoing the whole JA program from some of the feedback we got. Anything else, Steve, specifically before I get to Chris?
I think honestly, that was, I think the biggest thing that we learned really through the beginning was just that, there was going to be some ways that we were going to do things a little bit differently, just based on where we thought we were at with our timeline.
Yeah,
and again,
we got to meet you where you're at too, and I get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is where you're at. Yeah. So we I'm proud of Audrey there. I probably would have just butted heads with you, so you hated me. So I'm like, the data tells me this. The data tells me this. I'm kind of a just data-driven dude, but everybody's got their timeline, and you got to meet them where they're at as well. Yeah. Thanks, man. Chris, what you got? Anything for me?
Not necessarily. Like I do know, like I think, when someone's like Madlab's, you're teaching a system, right? It's a formula, mathematical equation. So it's not, kind of this, kind of that, especially when you're trying to teach businesses, this is exactly how we do it. You have to be this way. It's like taking the CrossFit certification. Like this is the way it's done because this is CrossFit. It's not like you could use this, that might work, this might work. I think that implementing it as an applied science might work with certain aspects, but regardless, I do think that it's important for, you guys to have to teach this is exactly how it has to do it. And again, it's up to us to do what we want with that, right? And I think by keeping that structure is essential. I do know, sometimes the professionalism of the coaching industry in general, we will use different jargon, we use different words, we'll carry ourselves a different way. Even like, again, it's even the way, sometimes the way CrossFit was presented to us, 10 plus years ago, and you go to a certain now is very different. Culture's completely changed. And I think that, the more professional we act, the way, we all try to keep, try to act like professionals because we want to be professionals based on how we, hold ourselves, the way we talk about our peers or different industries, is really important. I think doing that, people will be more serious and more professional when they hear and feel certain videos and hearing other people that used to potentially work for you and whatnot, right?
I appreciate that. I know exactly what you're talking about there, and it's a valid 100% correct. When you're starting a company and trying to build it, there's certain things you do that won't work later on, and I've learned it the hard way.
And so have we. But the good thing is as long as we're always seeing a trajectory of going like this, right? That's all we can ask for, right? And I think that now, before, if you asked me like, I don't know, a year ago, I would have said, you guys have something great to offer, and there's not enough marketing on you guys coming out there. But I have seen changes of your marketing, because at the end of the day, I'm definitely more than happy to promote you guys. But again, it's not my full-time job to say everyone needs to be on here. Like if someone has something to ask my opinion, I'm more than welcome to. But I don't think people know enough about what you guys have to offer. And I do think that if you get out there more and you tell them the dream, it will help change the fitness industry. And I think that's one of the biggest things is people knowing that you guys have something great to offer, right? Because again, it took me a long time till I heard about you guys. Steve was the one who told me, and I heard about the name, but I still didn't understand what it meant, right? And it's not just until recently that I've seen, the game with you guys have changed. And I think it's just a matter of time, right? The more we do, the better we're going to get. The more people are going to know that, all the good things that you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate that. And I got to say, that's my fault. To tell you the honest truth, when I started Madlab Group, it was thrust upon me in a way. And I had so many people calling me, and I had to figure out a way to sort of structure it better so I didn't use all my time. And then the first bit of, you'll laugh at this one. I don't know if this one's professional or not, but it's the truth. Like in 2011, probably, I was still trying to get the school together, and I was working 14 hours a day as it was, and tried to maintain a relationship. This girl was like, during 3 hours during the day, I'd be talking to people all over the world about just how to do your fundamentals program. And I did it from scratch every time. She goes, Craig, why don't you just put this recorder down, record yourself, and at least just put it in front of the phone. You can go take a piss. I mean, just start there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not very good technical wise. In engineering school, they tried to free your mind of all of that stuff and just focus on base principles. And if I had known it was going to become a global digital marketing game, because in our gyms, you know, Chris, if you do a great job, and if your coaches do a great job, they tell their friends, they tell their loved ones, they tell their coworkers, and there's that natural referral source that Steve talked about earlier. There's just this natural referral source where you do a great job, buck, you get rewarded, that's it. And in the other industry with us consulting to gym owners, they all hate each other, they don't talk to each other, there's no relationships, and you got to start over from scratch all the time. And the only way today to get there anywhere's economically, because the game's changed completely, is Facebook, Instagram, like TikTok, whatever, and I hate that shit. I mean,
don't do TikTok.
I don't know. They've just been trying to drag me into it over the years, and I'm finally. I've had so many consultants and so many places I went and spent bad money that Tom is actually guiding that side of stuff, and we have two consultants that understand the math of it, and I hope you're seeing better stuff, and I hope to start putting my own stuff out again, because I was scared to do so. We just got attacked. I mean, I had so many trolls on me from telling the truth, because they didn't want the 2-day cert thing made a lot of money. They didn't want that gig up at one point. So anyway, I appreciate that feedback. Anything else you guys want to add to this thing? We're getting to that magic hour mark, and I feel like we could talk forever, because some of these can go in all kinds of ways. Anything else left to add?
No, I just want to thank you for letting us come on here again. I think you're touching on some subjects that I think the industry, not just CrossFit gym owners, any business owner in general, anyone, even coaches who want longevity and, see if there's something missing, or, be able to see something that they haven't been able to see yet because they've been in the industry for not very long, or they're too busy because they're trying to handle the day-to-day, not understanding why they haven't gone to the next level. Right. So, I think, asking us the right questions, we've made so many mistakes, let's just say, that we want to share them with people and be like, we've been doing this for a long time, so it's not all perfect. Right. And if we can help other people, not do what we did and just kind of skip those steps, that's awesome, because again, the better everyone gets, the better we all get. And I think that's the way you have to look at it. And it's not just CrossFit or boot camp or yoga studios. It's just fitness as a whole. And I think we keep ourselves to a higher standard, and we're all going to benefit from it.
It's interesting you say that, because we have yoga studios, and we've got dance, and we've got some gymnastics gyms. And there's a whole eclectic universe out there that I hope I can bring you guys together in a room again. We haven't been able to do that for a few years, but I think the systems work across fitness. I think they work in golf and all kinds of stuff. Steve, closing words?
No, I think, I was just thinking about the trolls thing, and I think a lot of times on social media and stuff like that, when you actually get people pissed off, I think a lot of the times it's because you hit a nerve, because you're saying something that's true, right? Like, I can imagine the people that are coming after you for saying this shit about the 2-day certs, and deep down, those people are probably like, you're right. Like, but they just don't want to admit it. So they'll make themselves feel better by throwing you under the bus.
Yeah.
When you're striking a nerve, a lot of times it's because you're probably saying something that's got some truth in it and that people don't really want to hear. But, at the end of the day, if doing things like this it's never a bad thing. You're fighting the good fight, and, you're working towards benefiting the industry as a whole. If anybody's listening to something in one of these podcasts and they don't agree, at the end of the day, this is here to benefit people. It's not here to tear people down. Yeah. So
I'm not getting rich quick either. I mean, it's
right?
Like I could multiply this and sell the shit out of it. I mean, basically it's hand-to-hand combat in the trenches with every coach has got a mentor. Every gym owner's got a mentor. It's not very scalable. I'm never going to get rich fast. It's a long, slow trod that I'll be out here and I'll outlast everybody. And, I really did keep to myself there. If you ever saw that one article I wrote, it was a bit of clickbait, but 90% of CrossFit gyms are slowly going bankrupt. Well, they kind of showed that it all kind of came true, but definitely came true in the last 5 or 6 years. And most of the people that were trolling me have been fired. and it's sold out, and it's like, they're all gone. Everybody that attacked me in that thing is gone, one way or the other. And we're still here with fine people like you. So we'll just keep on fighting the good fight, and
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's just everyday honest, everyday straight integrity, and you can feel good about yourself. You can sleep well at night, and this is life, baby. All right, from live from the Greater Toronto area, where their housing prices are going even crazier than ours in Vancouver. This is Madlab's podcast with our gym owners. So thank you very much for listening. If you found something in there that you liked, go on the website. There's tons of information there, and book a call. You'll probably talk to these guys' mentor, Audrey, who's my wife. And how good is Audrey, boys?
We just got
Talk
off
to
the
her
phone with
every
her.
2 weeks.
Did you? She's steering you right?
It was good. We're not messing up yet. She still likes us.
Good stuff. All right, boys. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
I'm just
for having
going to
us.
stop the recording here.